Joseph, wake up!
It's 2 p.m. Let me sleep.
You know, Sadie, Joseph is always sleeping during the day. And he never goes outside. And he never looks in the mirrors. And he's just so very pale. Yeah, I wonder.
Good afternoon, Jenk enthusiasts. I'm MBT, and this is 10-Minute Testing. Now, I spend a lot of time hawking it, but it's never enough, so I'll do it again here. I have a Patreon. And on this Patreon, my high-tier patrons can suggest one 10-minute testing a month to examine, which the plebes in the lower tiers can vote on. Think of it like a DNC-style situation. And like the DNC, it doesn't always yield the best result. Such is the case with this month's deck. Presenting Vampire Gold Pride.
I'm from Waterloo, where the vampires hang out!
So here's the list, and what are you gonna do? Tell me I'm wrong? As always, I'll give you background about the archetype, a little bit of a discussion about what I hope the deck can do, and of course, the card by card. But first, this video is sponsored by Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck. Yu-Gi-Oh! Pro Deck is the #1 place to go if you need a pack simulator, a card database, or want to read a wealth of strategy articles. They also post breakdowns and lists from every major TCG and Master Duel tournament, including the Master Circuit series. Give them a look at www.ygoprodeck.com. With that, let's wander into Vampire Gold Pride. So I think I see the vision behind this one. The vampire cards are incredibly powerful, but they've been sadly without a home since the Hauka-Fibrax and Chaos Ruler bans that killed the zombie synchro deck dead. Dead in the sense that it's not being played, not dead in the sense of a zombie. Anyway, these monsters are extremely adept at two things. Firstly, amassing an incredible amount of advantage off of just a few cards, and secondly, paying life points. This leads perfectly into the Gold Pride monsters, which once you're lower than your opponent can be special summoned from the hand. Now I know what you're thinking. These undead doofuses might pay life, but doesn't Punk pay life as well? Why play a bunch of cards that weren't strong enough to see play on debut in 2015 when you could be playing one of the most effective monster combo engines of all time? Well, the release of one individual card has changed all the math on all of that. Transaction rollback. See, the vampires are much better than Punk at making a little lady called Beatrice, which means you're able to not only enable the Gold Pride monsters, you're also able to do that super annoying thing currently reserved for VW decks, trigger Ghost Meets Girl, a Masterful Mayakashi, and Shiranui Saga. So with that, let's get into the card by card. We'll start with the vampire half of the deck, and the entire combo begins with this card, Vampire Ghost. When normal summoned, it allows you to send another vampire card from your hand or face of field to the graveyard to add a level 4 or higher vampire from your deck to your hand, and if you do, send a level 2 or lower vampire from your deck to the graveyard. The card you'll be adding is Vampire Grace. When a level 5 or higher zombie monster is special to your field by the effect of a zombie monster while this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 2,000 to special summon this card from your graveyard, and you'll be getting it into your graveyard by using it as the material for the other card you will be sending, a copy of Vampire Familiar, which, if in your graveyard, can send a vampire from your hand or face of field to the graveyard to special summon this card, and if special summoned, can pay 500 to add a vampire monster from your deck to your hand. You'll be activating that effect to get Shadow Vampire, which can't be used as material for an Xyz summon except for the Xyz summon of a dark monster, and when normal summoned specifically allows you to special summon a dark vampire from your hand or deck except Shadow Vampire, but monsters you control can't attack for the rest of the turn except for the monster that's been special summoned. From here, you are going to link summon a copy of Sucker and then activate the graveyard effect of Ghost, which allows you to, during the main phase, banish this card from your graveyard and pay 500 to normal summon a vampire monster. That enables you to summon the Shadow, and then use Shadow to summon Scourge from deck. Scarlet Scourge says if this card is normal or special summoned, you can pay 1,000 life points, then target a vampire monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but it can't attack this turn. And at the end of the battle phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle, you can special summon that monster from the graveyard to your field. You're going to go Chainlink 1 Grace, Chainlink 2 Scourge in order to summon Sucker. You'll draw a card off the Sucker, and then afterwards you have access to a rank 6 and lower life points. That enables you to get into the Gold Pride cards. 3 copies of Gold Pride Leon, 2 copies of Captain Carry, 1 copy of Rollerballer, and 1 copy of Nitro Head. A pretty standard ratio for these monsters, playing the maximum amount of the ones you want to draw and a minimal amount of the ones you want to search over the course of a setup combo. We're also playing 2 Vampire Retainer. This is just generally a pretty powerful card and gets you access to a bunch of really strong spell traps. After that, we've got 3 copies of Pot of Prosperity, 3 copies of Gold Pride Better Luck Next Time. When activated, adds Gold Pride from your deck to your hand and loses life points equal to its attack. It's a way to turn on Gold Pride even if you don't have access to vampires. 2 copies of Vampire's Desire, which allows you to target a face-up monster you control. Send a vampire from your deck to the graveyard with a different level, and the targeted monster becomes that level until the end of the turn. Or target a vampire in your graveyard, send a monster you control to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon the targeted monster. And finally, 1 copy of Vampire's Domain. Once per turn, you can pay 500 during your main phase. This turn, you normal summon a vampire in addition to your normal summoner set, and each time your vampire monster inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you gain the same amount of life points. Finally, we're on 2 copies of Gold Pride Start Your Engines, which allows you to, provided your opponent has normal or special summoned a monster, target one of those monsters, reveal 3 Gold Pride monsters from your deck. Your opponent picks 1 for you to special summon, the rest are shuffled into the deck, and the targeted monster is destroyed. Finally, we have Transaction Rollback and Ghost Meets Girl, a masterful Mayakashi Shiranui saga. You've seen this effect before, but the short of it is by setting Transaction Rollback and this card via the effect of a Beatrice made with 2 level 6 monsters, you can prevent your opponent from summoning. Awesome. Finally, we have a little bit of non-engine. 9 slots. We've got Ash Blossom, Forbidden Droplet, and Infinite Impermanence in the extra. We've got Pinballer, Trishula, Borlord Savage Dragon, Star Leon, Zeus, the Zombie Vampire for thematic purposes, Sheridan, Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal Chariot Carry, Fascinator, SP Little Knight, Sucker, Avenged Saver, Barricade Borg Blocker, and IP Masquerena. In the side, we've got 3 Nibiru, 3 Phantasme, 3 Droll and Lockbird, a Feather Duster, triple Cosmic Cyclone, and triple Anti-Spell Fragrance. So with that, let's jump into the games. Our first match is up against Predaplant Lair of Darkness, which should give you a good indication of how powerful I think this deck is. I guess I kind of see the synergy. What if you're also on a plant strategy in the open Lone Fire? Okay, well, we get to go first, and we have opened the combo. We're going to begin with a copy of Ghost. Ghost is going to send that familiar to the graveyard alongside a retainer, because of course we already have the familiar in rotation. We'll pitch the Grace that we add to hand, and then trigger the effect of the familiar for a Shadow. Let's go into Sucker, activate the graveyard effect of Ghost, and tribute summon that Shadow Vampire. Shadow's going to trigger here, getting a copy of Scarlet Scourge, and then we'll summon Grace from graveyard, triggering the effect of the Scarlet Scourge to bring back the Sucker, then a point of resolution. Because a zombie monster was summoned, we can activate the effect of Sucker to draw. We'll go to Beatrice, trigger the effect of the Vampire Retainer. Let's just pay some life points here to get another material on our side of the field before we make an SP Little Knight. And then finally, let's go for a Captain Carry, activate her effect to get a copy of Start Your Engines, activate Beatrice to send a Transaction Rollback, and set 2 cards. We'll pass back to our opponent, who draws for turn as Sacrosanct. We'll activate the effect of the Beatrice, and then we'll Transaction Rollback, targeting this copy of Ghost Meets Girl. Our opponent's going to set 2 and then activate Lair of Darkness, normal summon the Sacrosanct, and use its effect in order to pop the Beatrice. They'll take 27 in the process, which means we should be able to OTK them. We'll activate Ghost Meets Girl here in order to cycle back this copy of Familiar to the graveyard as they attempt to go for Darkness at the end step. We'll activate Familiar's effect in the grave, walking into a debunk. Wow. Okay, let's just go to combat then. Captain Carry into this copy of Sacrosanct. They'll flip Preda Planet and trigger the effect of the Sacrosanct, which allows them to add from deck to hand a copy of Sundew Kigai, and then we'll get in for 16 and 16. We'll pass back to our opponent, activating the effect of the Vampire Sucker so we can draw a card in the process, and setting a copy of Infip. They'll go for the Lair at end step, that mandatory effect activation. They're going to normal summon the Sundew Kigai. We will activate Gold Pride Start Your Engines in order to pop that Sucker and get access to a Leon. We'll trigger the effect of the Leon in order to bring back the Captain Carry, then trigger the Captain Carry effect to get another copy of Start Your Engines. Our opponent will scoop. So that's how the deck performs on the play, but what does it do on the draw? Well, surprisingly little, unfortunately. Our opponent for game 2 is on IBS, Invoked Bestial Shadow, I suppose. They're going to go for a Magical Meltdown in order to grab from deck to hand Alistair, normal Alistair. They'll activate the effect in order to grab from deck to hand a copy of Invocation before activating the Illusion of Chaos to get themselves a copy of Magician's Souls, then activating its effect, sending a, Dogmatica Maximus. This is kind of cool. They'll go for the Almirage, then activate the effect of Invocation, banishing the Maximus, then triggering the effect of the Branded Regained in order to cycle back the Maximus, and the effect of the Invocation in order to get rid of the Alistair. Afterwards, they're going to go for a top-decked Lubellion, and then activate the effect of the Magnemut as they put that Magician's Souls into the banished zone. Afterwards, they'll activate the effect of the Lubellion, followed up with an Nadir's Servant for an App Cologne, and then trigger the effect of the Ecclesia as well. They're going to go ahead and grab a Dogmatic Punishment and set it alongside a Hruk before resolving the effect of the Magnemut at end step. We'll draw for turn. I don't know what we're supposed to do to this. We'll begin with Vampire Domain. We'll use the extra normal here, paying 500 so that we can normal summon a Vampire Ghost. We'll activate the effect, and unsurprisingly, that's going to trigger the Regained. That does mean that we are able to send a Familiar to the graveyard. The Magnemut will trigger. We'll activate the effect of the Familiar, and unfortunately, there's just no way we can beat Winda. Okay, let's scoop them up. So it's time for game 3, and you know what that means, a best of 3 versus meta. Our opponent's on, and we're shaking it up this time, Snake Eye Pure. Our hand looks okay. We have a better luck next time, which allows us access to Captain Carry, but we don't have any of the vampire cards, which is unfortunate. We'll go Captain Carry here and be hit with a Moonlit Chill. Wow, okay. Let's go for Leon. Let's set this copy of Infip, and let's hope for the best. Our opponent draws for turn. Ooh, just a little too late there. They're going to go for a Popular here in order to grab the original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye, go into a Birch, and go into Link Haribo. They'll go for Popular here and activate the original Sinful Spoils. We will Ash that. Then we'll Infip this Birch at Resolution. Afterwards, our opponents go to link off for a copy of Hita. They'll Hita to bring back our Ash, then go into a copy of Princess. That enables us an opportunity to activate Leon and go into Star Leon. They will Moonlit Chill, but oh no, it doesn't work like that. In sequence, we will activate the effect of the Star Leon, and its effect at end step will be negated. We'll draw for turn and should be able to wrap this one up. Let's switch this sucker to 47. I just need them to fade a single draw step, and we should be home free. Well, it turns out I didn't actually need them to fade the draw step because the original Sinful Spoils in the graveyard also gets Ash. They could have played through one piece of interruption, but we don't even really have that because our Star Leon gets checked with the infip that our opponent set. Let's go next. So it's time for game 2, and we opened the combo! Wow, we really opened the combo. This is everything we could ever want. We're going to activate Ghost here in order to grab Grace and send both Retainer and Familiar to the graveyard. Familiar pitching Grace, then we'll activate Familiar in order to grab from deck to hand a Scarlet Scourge into Sucker, into Ghost, into Scourge. We're going to activate the effect of the Scarlet Scourge and summon from our graveyard this copy of Grace. Then afterwards, we're going to activate Better Luck Next Time. Our opponent will Ash Blossom, but Better Luck Next Time, we already drew the card we want to search. Captain Carry here is going to grab from deck to hand a copy of Start Your Engines. Then we'll make a Beatrice Leon time. Then we'll activate the Beatrice, sending a copy of Transaction Roll back to the graveyard, ending on Star Leon and the Trap. Our opponent will draw. We will activate Beatrice, sending a Ghost Meets Girl, activating Transaction, targeting the Ghost Meets Girl, and getting evenly matched. All right, I guess we'll take Star Leon. They're going to activate Bonfire in main phase 2, grabbing Ash, a card that kills us on the crackback. We draw for turn, and oh god, we lose! We lose! All that and we lose! So we're back with the deck, and wow, not a great showing. On one hand, it's cool that decks like Snake Eyes get to do so much, but on the other hand, boy, is it impossible to get through. Let's do the pros and cons. First, the pros. 1, the rollback lock. This play is incredibly powerful, and a little tougher to access than I think we all assumed when we first realized that Beatrice just does it on her own. This deck has some of the most accessible 2-card combos for it yet. 2, this one seems obvious, but the life point payments from the vampires are perfect for the gold prides, letting you start your engines as soon as turn 1. And 3, you're going to get a non-zero number of wins from opponents just being too scared to play. And the cons. 1, the Gold Pride monsters and the vampires do not find each other. In GP Punk, even if you only find Punk monsters, you can still get to the Gold Prides through Captain Carry. Here, well, you kind of have to draw both. 2, each of the combos is a 2-card. This isn't an immediate death sentence, but it doesn't bode well in a format where so many decks operate on 1. And 3, the mirror match is just abysmal. None of the monsters even show up. All in all, this deck's a cute pile of little synergies, but adding Gold Pride monsters isn't enough to rescue the vamps from undeath. So that's that. Thanks so much for watching. These videos are basically subsidized by, and occasionally suggested by, my Patreons. If that's something that's interesting to you, please check out the link in the description. For now, I'd like to shout out my high-tier patrons, including Elena Tincher, Alex Perea, Allison Elliott, Brett Henry, Canner, Seaweed, Darkmaster Zork, Derp and Dragon, Devin Senpai, DJ Elephant, Enraged Peacock, Gravity, Half Miss, John Piet, Juan Cruz Avila Zati, Night Mary, Legal Rights, Luis Hernandez, Matthew M. Derezzo, MBT Play Madolce, Mike Carlotti, N54 Lionheart, Puffin of Doom, Rabout, Rose Lapine, Solar Flare the Ricka Queen, Troy Says By Erasure is Gay, Vincent Storm, Who's Nick, Wonder Waffle, Your Pot of Greed Does What, and Yuki. I couldn't have done it without you.